one thing about these folks in America, they are very notorious for trying to give the impression of how heavily they are needed. And COVID has showed us the opposite. They really have. Now, we know the West is doing worse than everybody on the whole planet. America, number one, never lost its number one spot in the last 8 months and still holding strong. So, ladies and gentlemen, Africa, they were expecting Africa to fall apart and need all this aid and assistance. And they were preparing to board planes and get over to Africa to help them through COVID. And Africa is sailing through coronavirus like a champ. America, if you can look at this map, America got so much COVID, it is buried under all of the red dots. You can't even see America. You can't even see the American continent. You can't even see the North America continent from all them red dots. But this is what we're looking at, you know? See, these folks always assume they're going to be better than everybody else. And as you can see, COVID is really showing their ass in more ways than one. You are not the know-all and be-all people of the universe like you try to project for many centuries. So it's very clear now that Africa is doing exceptional. America trumps Africa in COVID virus cases. Now, America is a country, Africa is a continent, and this big continent, which is way bigger than America, has far less cases, and they're not struggling nearly as bad as they are in America. So the coronavirus pandemic has fractured global relationships. So Africa's 54 countries are actually doing way better and responding better to COVID than the richer countries, including the United States. While the US surpassed 200,000 COVID deaths, and the world approaches 1 million deaths worldwide, Africa's surge has been leveling off. Its 1.4 million confirmed cases are far from the horrors predicted. Yeah, they were even, all these news organizations kept talking about, wait until you see Africa. Wait until you see Africa. It's going to go off the charts in Africa. It's not happening, y'all. It is just simply not happening. I guess they thought they could speak that into existence. No, they can't. No, they can't. They can't speak it into existence. Antibody testing is expected to show many more infections, but most cases are asymptomatic. Just over 34,000 deaths are confirmed on the continent of 1.3 billion people. Experts caution that data collection in many African countries is incomplete. Yeah, well, data collecting in America is incomplete. So what are you trying to say? It's incomplete here. There's far more cases than what you are telling. Plain and simple. Africa is doing a lot of things right. The rest of the world isn't, said Gail Smith, a former administrator with the U.S. Agency for International Development. She's watched in astonishment as Washington looked inward instead of leading the world. No, yeah. How many years have we heard these people walking around talking about they created medicine and science? Now we know medicine and science supersedes these folks' existence on the planet, but you brought it there. You went there. So it's not far-fetched for people to bring that up. You said you created medicine. You said you created science. But yet you are last in COVID-19 on the planet. You got more deaths than every nation. You got more cases than every nation. And 8 months later, you still have zero solutions. Zero solutions out of America. But these are the creators of medicine and science. They are the creators of everything. Well, I tell you what, if you are those things, you looking real bad now. We know you're not. Okay. I don't buy that. This only one group of people created everything. That doesn't even make any sense. And it don't make sense that inventions would come from you. You didn't do the work back during the time of chattel slavery when many of those inventions came out. Why would the inventions come from people that didn't do the work? Duh. Okay. A former official with the US CDC, the Cameroon born. Okay, so this is an employee. He said it pains him to see the US struggle now. I bet it don't. I bet it don't. I don't think a lot of people are feeling America's pain at all. Just look at the history of America on the planet. Early modeling assumed a large number of Africans would just die, he said. The Africa CDC decided not to use projections. Good. When I looked at the data, the assumption, I wasn't convinced, he said in an interview with the Associated Press. Health experts point to Africa's youthful population as a factor to why COVID-19 hasn't taken a larger toll, along with swift lockdowns and the later arrival of the virus. And of course, they're like everybody else. There's a lot people don't know. I mean, you look at the scientists and doctors here, it's like every single week they're coming out with a new symptom, so that tells you they're still learning. And if you're still learning a virus, how do you make a vaccine for it? You know how many mutations this thing is going to go through by the time you get a vaccine out? Mm-mm-mm. The collapse of the global cooperation and a failure of international solidarity have shoved Africa out of the diagnostics market. So Africa is not losing in this thing, y'all. They are holding strong. They really are. Supplies slowly improved, and African countries have conducted 13 million tests, enough to cover 1% of the continent's population. But the ideal is 13 million tests per month. So Africa has been ravished, especially by HIV and Ebola, and a whole host of different viruses and diseases have ravished the continent. But on COVID, they're doing very well. They're doing exceptional. So, of course, they said they're still, although they're not doing as bad as the US, they're still taking all the necessary precautions to stay safe and to keep their population safe. Leaders are expected to say the COVID-19 pandemic has shown it has no option but to depend on each other. Ghana President Nana Akufo-Addo told the gathering Monday. African countries did not wait for help, and they rejected all of the projections that people were putting out and putting them down and claiming, they were going to be begging for help. They're not begging for help. And look, you even got the Caribbean that is also doing exceptionally well. And of course, better than the US. And look, The US, again, richest nation on earth, doing worse than everybody on the whole planet. I look at Africa and I look at the US, and I'm more optimistic about Africa, to be honest, because of the leadership there and doing their best despite limited resources. hmm With COVID-19 vaccines, the next urgent issue, Africa countries held a conference to insist on equitable access and explore manufacturing to end their almost complete reliance on the outside world. They began securing the late stage clinical trials, but long have been held outside the continent, aiming to land as soon as possible. You know, yeah, they can really, because there's not a lot of COVID on the continent, they really can go at their own pace when it comes down to a vaccine. It's no need in even rushing something like that through, like the United States is trying to do. They're trying to rush through a vaccine that most people are saying they don't even want. But you know how vain they are here. You know, they got to save face by trying to find ways of threatening the public into taking their lame ass vaccine. So let's just put it this way, the devastating effects of COVID on Africa does not exist. And I don't believe it will. COVID actually moves pretty fast, it's airborne. Now, if it was going to do a lot of damage in Africa, we've been dealing with it for 8 months. Africa is doing just fine. You know, that area you call the Middle East, or they'll tell you, well, you know, Middle Eastern people, which is no such thing. But, you know, this is what these idiots say. So, anyway, they're doing worse than Africa. Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, those areas are doing worse than Africa. The West is doing worse than Africa. South America is doing worse than Africa. I mean, everybody is doing worse than Africa. But remember, Trump said that was the shithole country. Who knew the shithole country would be doing just fine? And the country that has all the high IQ people is struggling and doing worse in the world. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.